Hello world, Michael Zack here, and today we're finally taking a look at the Amaran Pano 60C. Now, it did cost this much at the time of the recording of the video, and I did buy this with my own money, so these are going to be my own brutal and honest opinions as always. So let's take a look at what comes inside the box. My own brutal and honest opinions as always. This is new to me. Okay, so full disclosure here, mine was clearly returned. You can see that Amazon just slapped a label and mailed it. And then when I got this, it came in a bag. But let's go ahead and pop this open. Also, the box is very, very, very damaged. So I definitely tell that I paid for something new and Amazon delivered something used. So popping this open right away, the stickers are on the outside of the box and the box is kind of messed up. So yeah, this is a return. But let's take a look at the build quality. First off, you have this absolutely beautiful case. Amaran did a great job with this case. You have some nice handle straps. You have some fabric on the bottom here, which is nice. And I really like these toggles here. These zipper toggles really work very, very well. So very, very nice. So let's go ahead and pop this thing open. And right away, I could absolutely tell that this thing was returned. When I pay for something new, I kind of want something new. So that's an Amazon problem, not an Amaran problem. So inside, you are going to get the AC adapter and power cord here. You're going to get the grid. You're going to get the mount. You are going to get this odd diffusion thing. Flipping this over, you do get some elastic bands here that hold the softbox here. So you are getting a softbox. Here's all the extra instructions. And then behind this piece of foam is the actual light itself. Now let's take a look at the case. The case is not that padded. In fact, they do give you a little piece of foam to put over your light so nothing happens to it. I really wish they had padded this. But there you go. There you have it. Don't lose this. And I really wish they had put the softbox on this side, strapped it to this side instead of this side where it can hit the light. Then you wouldn't need this piece of foam. But there you go. There you have it. You got some nice pockets in here. Not crazy well padded, but it's fine. It's quite a quality bag, so really no major complaints there. So the bag looks fantastic. Now let's take a look at the light. Now it does have some kind of diffusion on the front, be it very, very, very small. You get a 1/4-20 up top. You get this magnetic mount on the bottom here. You could also power this with a 65-watt PD power charger, and there are holes here, so yes, when you play music, this thing is gonna flash. Swinging over to the back, it is very thin plastic, so be careful. You do get a fan here, and you do get a very large screen and some nice clicky buttons here, which feel pretty good. And then on the side here, you're gonna have your diagrams for attaching that weird diffusion that we talked about. Not really sure what this is for, but these are for the weird diffusion. Anyway, that is pretty much the build quality of the light. Looking at the grid, it seems to be very well stitched together. I like the fact that it's stitched, it's not threaded through. Somebody obviously mangled the heck out of this, so I can't really give you an honest opinion because whoever did this did not know how this was supposed to fold. Moving on to the softbox, it velcros shut like this. Looks pretty good. And we'll go ahead and unvelcro this. And just to let you know that, we'll just pull these velcros as well. Pull these all the way around. This kind of velcros around this panel, very much like the old 1x1 little D pop-ups used to work, little diffusion pop-ups for 1x1 panels. That's kind of the same design here. But this feels very well made. You do get some loops here for pulling this out. You've got these nice Velcro straps, and then you have some fabric straps in here so the thing doesn't fall in. And I will let you know that this is attached. You cannot remove this diffusion. You are stuck with this diffuser only. Not like you can put in a grid cloth or change out the diffusion. So there you go. There you have it. I guess it'll be up to third parties to come up with a different kind of softbox where you can change that out. Of course, you get your AC brick, and it looks like there should have been a cable, a safety tie with this, but it looks like whoever returned this did not include that. And you do get a power cord. It is a 3-prong like tape recorder cord. There is no way to hang this. I'm going to show you a little bit later how I'm going to solve that. This is just going to lie on the ground, but you do get fairly lengthy cords here. And finally, we have the mount. It is very, very, very well constructed. It is a disc system. It is made of all metal. These plastic knobs feel really nice. You do have a release button here. And just to show you how this works, let's go ahead and slap this together. And I am whipping this thing around quite hard. It is not going anywhere. And then you press the button and it releases. So excellent job, Amaran. And lastly, you have this very bizarre diffusion thing. It's just got a couple of hooks inside and some metal. It is very bizarre. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and mount this right there. And let's go ahead and just mount this like so. And it sticks together really, really nicely. So there we go. That looks great. Now let's go ahead and put on this very silly diffusion. So basically what you want to do, actually I'm going to take this off so I can show you. Basically what you want to do is you want to take the hooks and slide the hooks into the cooling vents here, which is a very strange way of doing this. And then you'll go to this side and it's got elastic in it. So you'll just kind of do the same there and kind of do the same there. And not sure how well this is going to work as a diffusion. I'll put my hand in there and kind of puff it out. But there you go. There you have it. That is how it connects. Very, very odd. So let's go ahead and let's plug this into a battery. Now, one thing I do want to say is when I tried to plug it into my small rig charged at 100%, it told me it was only going to give me 90% power. So that is something to know, that this is a 60 watt, and even with a 99 watt battery, you're not going to get full power on a V-mount. But let's plug it into my core and see if we can get full power on my core battery. Okay, so here are the controls here, and you do get some nice clicky buttons here, which I didn't show you before, and buttons feel good. You get a nice big screen. The fan is in the back, but let's go ahead and make sure my core battery is working. And normally what happens is we will get, when you plug this in, the power button lights up, and we'll press the power button. And with the core battery up, see, we're getting the same message. It says, currently, power supply only supports a maximum brightness of 90%. So when you're running this on battery, you're only going to get 90%. So you're losing about 10% power running off a V-mount or a power bank. So that is just something to know. That is very interesting. Because you would think if something has 100% power, it would be able to run a 60 watt light at full power. That might be a limitation of the PD65 watt. There you go, there you have it. You're only getting 90% power. All right, so let's take a look at the controls here. Now, first off, you get your CCT. We are getting a warning, that warning light, because we are not operating at 100% power. You got your Bluetooth here. And by turning the dial, you get your CCT, and when you press it in, it selects. And this goes from 10,000 Kelvin all the way down to 23,000 Kelvin. Let's go to 39 because that's what we're shooting here. And we'll go ahead and click that in. And we have a plus minus green, and it goes up into, I believe, up to 0.1. So probably about 10 bits of adjustment there by 0.1 increments. And then we have our power level, which goes all the way up. This is 100. And let's go ahead all the way down to 0. And let's go to 1 and take a look at 1. And I will say 1 is not bad. It's about 5%. So there's about 1%. Pressing the menu button here twice, we go here and we have our HSI, and we can go in here and let's go ahead and let's jack that all the way up. And the blue looks pretty darn good. Let's go ahead and select our hue. We're at 146 here. Here's about 240. That looks pretty darn good. And this looks pretty good, pretty even throughout the spectrum here. Not bad at all. Red looks good. Even yellow looks pretty good. Again, you're getting that new technology here in this light. So all looks very, very good. And of course, you can, of course, like anything, adjust the saturation to your heart's content as well. Pressing the button twice again, we go into the RGB mode. And one other thing I didn't show you about the HSI mode is that pressing the button again, We go into the RGB controls. Now you can control the power. You can do your reds, your greens, your blues, and the power here. I never mess with this mode, but you can if you want. Then we go into the FX mode. Now this is a warning for those of you who are sensitive. But let's go ahead into the FX mode. And first off, we have TV, TV, and you can control the brightness of the TV. They do have some settings here. Next, we'll double click here and we'll go to pulse and we'll trigger the pulse here. And then we'll go into what looks to be strobe and we'll quickly get out of there. And we'll go into explosion here. Explosion doesn't seem to do anything, so we'll move on. Of course, we have fire. Let's check out the fire here. And fire seems to be way too fast. But you do get full controls. You have a warmer mode, you have nature, you have cooler, and you have warmer. So you do get that. You have a frequency control on most of these effects, so you can control how fast and how slow. So there you go. There you have it. There is no color temperature control on the fire, though. And of course, you get paparazzi, you get welding, you get cop car, you get party lights, fireworks, faulty bulb, lightning, which seems to work okay. And of course, back to TV, and that is it. That is your special effects. Clicking again, you get your Bluetooth set, and we don't need that. And you get your customization here. So you can kind of customize things here. Not really something I will mess around with. Let's go back to our CCT here. And clicking this. So next we have a CCT plus mode, and you can turn that on or off. I am not going to use that, but there you go. Then we have our language. You have fan control, smart and silent. I will tell you now the fan is not even working, and I've had this on for a bit. And then you have your information, general information. So that is it. That is pretty much the controls. Okay, so here we are at 1% now. Let's go ahead and jack this up to full power here. And we'll go to 100%. That is 100% of the light with the diffusion on. This diffusion is very, very, very strange. Let's turn that down. And let's go maybe, here's 25%. Let's go down a little bit more. And it does have a when you turn the knob, it kind of slowly dims after you turn the knob. Let's go to, 5%. This is about 7% right here. So let's jack this to, it's 14%. And 14% is not bad. So there you go. Let's go ahead and take this off. Now you are going to push on these little metal tabs and stretch and remove. And this is without any kind of diffusion. Okay, let's add the softbox and grid here, and I'm going to actually detach this to do so. So the best way to do this is to spread this out like so. And let's get this out of the way here. So you're going to pull on this and spread it out. It does not stay open. And you have these fabric ties here to keep it from falling in. But I'm just going to go ahead and slide it on top. And again, it does work very much like the old, like the soft boxes of the good old days. And let's go ahead and we'll just Velcro this around like so. And we'll Velcro this one around like so. Maybe. And then we'll grab it and we'll just kind of adjust it. So not the greatest adjustment in the world here. But you pull these out and it kind of falls into place. Sort of, kind of, part of it's in, part of it's out. Let's see if we can get it all in here. There's a little bit of a learning curve with this. There we go. And that should kind of be fine. So you kind of want to pull this fabric up over it a little bit. So there you go. That is how you put that on. So one of the negatives is that when you put this on, it does actually block the connection here, but yet this is not blocked. So I might have it on upside down. There's really no telling me which way is up, which way is down. So we're going to unhook this and do this again. So what you want to do is you want to make sure the straps are on the bottom here. And then let's go ahead and push this out of the way. And let's go ahead and try mounting this again. I'm going to actually put the handle on so that it doesn't get in the way. So let's go ahead and hook that in. There we go. And let's go ahead and try to put this in properly. Not a fan of how this mounts, by the way. And I guess that is kind of how it mounts. You kind of got that there, but then it kind of rests there. Unfortunately, there's no way to take this out to get inside to kind of work it into the right spot. So you just have to kind of work it the best you can. Okay, so here we are at the, I believe it's roughly, well, we're getting that problem again. Here we are at 14% with the diffusion on, and that is working quite nicely. Let's go ahead and put that sort of at arm's length. And that is doing a decent job. Let's go ahead and turn it up a little bit. And I will try to slide away a bit. That is doing quite a good job. So there we are. That is pretty good from far away. That is a nice 60. Now, one thing I do notice is that it is not filling the entire softbox. I could definitely see like a strip, but it's not filling the top and bottom as much. There is quite a bit of hot spot in the center here. So that is just something to note. In fact, let's go ahead and show you, see if we can show you that. Let's drag this down to 1%. And you probably can't see it on camera. You can a little bit, but you could definitely see that the top, the area, surrounding area on the outside is not being filled. You could just definitely see that there's a giant hot spot in the middle. So not lighting it completely even. Okay, so let's put on the grid here. And the grid has some Velcro ends here. So that is fairly easy to figure out. And it just kind of goes right over the edge here. This feels like somebody used this on a job and then returned it. That's what this feels like. This actually attaches quite nicely. Pretty quick, pretty solid. There you go. Not too bad. And here we are roughly at about 16% with the grid on. One thing I did notice is that the softbox is kind of popping in. The softbox is not staying taut when you put this on. No matter how much Velcro I put on, the ends are kind of, where the fold is, the ends are kind of going in. So that is just something to note, but that is at about 16% power. And to give you an idea of range, I'll back up even though I'm going to be blurry. So all in all, not bad. Okay, so let's talk pros and cons, starting out with the cons. And one of the small cons, it's not really a deal breaker because it is only a matter of 10%, but when you're running off a power pack or a V-mount battery, you are not going to get 100% out of this thing. You're only getting 90%. You can dial it up and it'll say 100%, but it won't be 100%. V-mount battery, still an option, not really a deal breaker. One thing I will say is I am not a huge fan of this softbox. Right where it folds, even when I put the grid on, right where it folds, it kind of starts to kind of push inward. So it's not. I don't know if it's just because this was used and abused and sent back or whatnot. One thing I will say is that when you're looking at the panel, it is not filling the entire softbox. There's like a major hot spot in the center, and then kind of the edges, like I showed you, are kind of they're being lit, but it's not being lit evenly. So that is something just to watch out for. Although it doesn't really seem to be a problem. That is just something I've noticed, that it's not evenly lighting the softbox. That might be due to the size and the configuration here and how this is built, but definitely not filling the entire softbox. And finally, I do not like the way that this softbox attaches. It's very much in the vein of that old school kind of like the old 1x1, the D-tap, I believe it's called D-tap or D something. I'll put it, or diffuse. I'll put it up on the screen. But it very much attaches by these Velcro straps, which, I mean, work and they feel great, but it's not my favorite. I do like the fact they put in this fabric here to block it from falling in, but again, not my favorite thing in the world, and you cannot change out the diffuser on this thing. You are just getting whatever diffusion is in here. So there you go, there you have it. And looking at the case, I really wish they had moved these straps to the other side to kind of be pushed against all this stuff. Although I do understand they were trying to protect the softbox by putting it flat against the unit itself. I really wish this padding were inside. They could have done a little bit more padding in here to protect it so that you could have the softbox and, or they could have given us some kind of padded pouch here so that it wouldn't hit the light. But that is just a little nitpicky thing about the case. Other than that, the case is constructed very, very, very well. And my last negative has to do with this absolutely ridiculous shower cap thing. I don't think this is doing really anything. It is one, too close to the light, and two, it is just bizarre the way that it goes on. I mean, you just have these little tiny metal hooks. This could get bent very easily. I am not a fan of the shower cap. It's kind of just weird. It's just weird. Not sure why they included this because you can simply just get the softbox here and throw on the softbox. I guess they were trying to give you a quick option, or another kind of diffusion option, but I would rather just slap this thing on and go. So very strange. That is definitely something I don't care for at all. Now, from the negatives to the positives, I am actually very impressed with this. It is quite powerful. I love the metal mount. I love the release button here. The fact that I can whip this thing around and it is not coming off. You have a beautiful screen, nice buttons. The controls are all very intuitive. You have some decent special effects in here. Everything seems to work very, very well. The color science looks great. This thing is pretty powerful for something this small. I love the fact that the grid is stitched together and not fed through. That is always, I always like to see that. Just means the grid will be much stronger and last longer. And you do get very deep, very tight grid pattern here, which is fantastic for controlling light. The softbox, while I'm not a fan of these straps, and while it doesn't stay open, I think that's just because this was used and abused, works fairly well. Once you figure out how to place this into here and get the mount on, it works very well, and I really like the way that the grid attaches to it. Very, very quick, very, very easy. So all in all, not bad at all. And they do give you an absolutely lovely case. A few nitpicky things in here, but very well constructed nonetheless. Wish there were a little bit more padding for something made out of this very thin plastic, but it's fine. It'll do the job. It should be fine. All in all, really, really impressed with this. Great power, great color, very small, definitely replaces the P60C. It's not as big, so it doesn't cover quite as big an area. That is the only downside between this and the original P60C, but this is much smaller, much lighter. I could definitely see myself taking this with me and using it as a backlight or a hair light, or even a key light in a pinch. But I will say that I would like to try the 120 to see how it stacks up. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on this? Now, I was looking at this as a P60C replacement. It is not. Once you put on the diffusion, the softbox here, once you get this very, very thick diffusion and you put the grid on, this thing loses a tremendous amount of power. I tried it at 240 with the grid on and with just the softbox, and it did not light up the backdrop at all. So that is just something to note, that it is not a P60C replacement. And also, I will probably most likely never ever use this bizarre thing. I don't know why they included this. You know, when you strap this on, it really doesn't diffuse the light a whole bunch because it is too close to the LEDs. So it's not really giving you a good spread. I don't really know why they did this. I guess they were trying to keep it small and light, and but it just doesn't seem to. This hat just doesn't seem to do much. So. A very odd choice. I would have preferred if they had given us a removable diffusion and just given us a grid cloth. To me, that would have been far more valuable than whatever the hell this is. Just bizarre, very weird. I'm never going to touch this. Just a weird choice. But at the end of the day, who is this for? If you're doing Zoom calls, although they do have the Verge, but if you're doing Zoom calls, you want a little bit more light. If you're in a small YouTube studio, if you need a hair light or an in-frame light or an on-camera light, or you're doing documentary work, you're traveling, you need something small and light, you need something incognito, this thing works pretty well, even as a small key light in a pinch. But if you're looking for a replacement for the P60C, I highly recommend checking out the 120C, which hopefully I will be getting in the studio for review. So there you go. There you have it. Now, I do know that 97.7% of you are not subscribed, so consider subscribing and hitting the little bell button for notifications, and maybe give us a thumbs up. But with that, those are my thoughts, but I want to know yours. So leave your questions and comments in the notes below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to mash that bell button to be notified when we drop a brand new video. And feel free to use the links below as it helps out the channel. I'm Michael Zack, and this is new to me.